All right, thank you. Like I said, I'm Sean Lander, CEO of Space Shark Studios, and I'm here to talk to you about our platform, CoLearn VR. And to start off, I'll go ahead and talk about the problem we're trying to solve, which is the education paradox. So what is the education paradox? Test scores have to keep going up, funds keep going down. I think everyone knows and has heard about this. Educators and administrators are stuck trying to figure out how to do more with less. And at the same time, we have the problem of educators just want to teach. They just want to engage the students. They don't want to have to worry about how much money is coming in where. So a lot of them have started turning to tech to try and bridge that gap and kind of save that money. Why do they use tech? They use it to engage their students and entertain their students. An engaged student learns better, they retain their information for longer, and entertained students will pay attention for longer periods of time because bored kids usually don't pick up on much. How do they use technology? So a lot have turned to things like online videos, software and apps, and educational games. And actually a growing number are starting to use VR and simulations in their classes. And these are all great. They're great ways to teach their kids, give the teacher an extra tool in a toolbox. But the problem is a lot of these are single-player, solo, individualized lessons, which was a big thing a few years ago, and now it's turning out teachers don't really like being taken out of the loop. They like to participate. They like the students to participate with each other. And so that's where we come in with CoLearn VR. As it says in the name, we are a virtual reality company. So virtual reality is very engaging. Who here has used virtual reality before? Hopefully a few. Okay, so a few people have tried it before. I forgot to bring the headset so you guys can try it. I'm sorry about that. If you've used it, you know it is very engaging. You feel like you're there. There's a sense of body presence, which you can't find anywhere else. And that really helps engage the student and make them make long-term memories, which is going to be a lot easier for them to recall later on during their testing. It's also, we're going to be using game-based learning and interactive learning. So the non-traditional learners, the ones that aren't, that don't really take to lectures and book reading as well, are able to kind of enjoy the learning as well. So they get their hands onto stuff. You can actually pick up and feel things, or not feel it, but like turn them around and look at them in different ways in VR. You can play games with other people, which is going to allow you to learn the material and experience it in a different way. On top of that, it's social. We're actually creating a social platform, so all the students can get into a classroom together. And we're making cooperative experiences and things like virtual field trips and labs, so they work together with each other and with their teachers. So they're developing social skills they otherwise won't with the existing technology, as well as able to bring the teacher back into the loop and work with them individually or together as a group. And finally, because it's social, it's distributed. So actually different schools can pair up together and share those teaching resources. So if you have students that really want to take something like advanced Latin, but your teacher, you don't have a teacher for it, or you don't have that at your school, you can pair up with a different school that may have those resources. So by using our platform, you can actually democratize learning, and so rural and urban communities gain access to those classes that are usually reserved for the bigger schools with more funding or the just better funded schools. So how are we getting this into the classroom? Well, we're a platform as a service, so we have a per headset fee per month. We have a setup, of course, to train the students, or the teachers and the administrators how to use it. And then to help ease the process of getting the headsets into the classroom, we're going to be providing a headset lease program so that they don't have to buy a $200 or $400 headset up front. We also are providing an at-home solution. So if you have a headset at home, you have students that want to learn in VR with their friends, you can actually act as the teacher and they can bring their friends in and participate in these same modules that they would be doing at school. And where are we at right now? We're actually running pilots this spring. We're partnered with Columbia Public Schools to bring VR into their STEAM program. So we're going to be in one of their middle schools with 2 or 3 teachers this spring. We're also going to be in Boonville Middle School, Jeff City High School, and Lake Forest Country Day School up outside of Chicago this spring. Questions I can get into more details about what we're providing. So what are the hurdles that we have? So we have 3 primary ones. One is trying to convince the schools that it's worth it to buy these headsets, or at very least lease from us. And that can be difficult because there isn't really too much content out there right now for the headsets that we're focusing on. And they are cheap, but they're not cheap for a full classroom. So $400 a headset is fine. When you say buy 20 or 30 of these, then it gets a little bit prohibitive, unless there's a good case for it. And that's where the content comes into play. What amount of content do we need to produce to where these schools look at this platform and say, yes, we need this. Our teachers want this, our students want this. So it's really indicative for us to make sure and target the content that is going to be the best for the schools and the most likely to get into them. And that takes people and time, which is money. So it's, you're always playing a resource game. And then finally getting into the schools, it's great if they really want it. It's bad if they just bought that same content last year, because we have to wait for a school cycle to go through, or for a full sales cycle. That could be 5 to 7 years. So it's really hard for us to go around and find which schools are about to re-up, say, their like science curriculum or their social studies curriculum, so that we can get in that pipeline. And then finally, what can you all do for us, which is that last question that's always asked. One, tell teachers. If you know teachers or are a teacher, we're looking for for teachers for our fall pilots. We work with you to develop VR curriculum for your classroom for a day or two. We get your students in, we get them through the content. If you're a parent and have a VR headset, or know a parent with a VR headset, or that wants to know more about VR, then go ahead and get in touch with us too. We're going to be having a beta. We're going to be meeting early adopters as well to kind of help spread this around so that more people are aware of Color VR. And then finally, try VR. If you haven't tried VR, try it, get into it, become an evangelist like I'm attempting to be right now. VR is, it's going to happen. This is not a false start like it's been in the past. It's amazing. $400, you can get a fully immersive headset now that's fairly high fidelity. It's awesome. And I haven't met anyone that tried it and said, I'll return it, I'm never going to use this. So that's basically it. I think I've made it under 7 minutes.
Who would like to start with questions?
Sorry for talking so fast. There's a lot to get there.
That's a great presentation. Really love the content. Got 2 questions. One, what is your primary age bracket of student that you're looking to target with this?
The primary age bracket right now is middle school or high school. We're going to be going for middle school first. So middle school STEM seems to have the highest want from administrators. Same with high school STEM, but I've also gotten a lot of interest from language learning, the arts and sciences sort of side of school as well. But primarily grades, say 6 through 10.
Awesome. And then the second question is regarding homeschoolers, because there's this aspect of creating a connection between students, especially if they've already got a headset at home, which for some homeschooling parents is not a stretch. Have you thought about gearing this for that?
Let's see if I can find the slide. There we go. So yes, we have. You can see kind of we're in phase 1 right now, and homeschool groups is one of the groups that we're hoping to capture in that first round, because the distributed nature of it really lends well. I know when I first started talking about this, there were some people that know or are part of the homeschool groups, that the problem of trucking around all the kids from house to house for teaching, it's a lot easier if they can all just put on their headsets and be in that class together, especially on days like today when you don't want every single parent out driving their kids around to whoever's teaching that day.
There was another question. I saw something.
So a VR educational environment like we see in Ready Player One, in which a person is able to jump into a historical period. What's the curriculum currently look like for VR education?
VR education right now is split up between super high fidelity single player experiences that require a full PC rig, so $1,500 plus $600 to $800 for the VR headset. There are a couple of really awesome ones like the Apollo 11 launch, International Space Station, stuff like that, but generally you're going to have to cycle your students through it. It's going to be a one-time thing, and it takes time for everyone because you can't really buy all those. The other side is using phones and a little Google Cardboard sort of slide in. The problem with that is basically everyone has dropped support for phone-based VR at this point. And on top of that, it just gives a lesser experience because you can't interact with anything. So you can do 360 videos, and sometimes you can have a VR, AR mix. There's one company that has a real cube. You can move around and it projects images on it. That's more of an AR thing. But in general, that's it, and nothing is really, there's only one platform that is also social, but teachers must build their own stuff on it. There's no content that's already made for it. So they actually have to go in and build their own rooms and their own experiences, which most teachers would like to do, but don't have the time for.
I'll take the next question. How are you creating your content?
We are creating our content through Unity, and we're partnered with a company that does multiplayer hosting to help build the actual social VR interactions. So we're partnering with them for the VR, or for the multiplayer VR, and then we're working with curricular experts to help build the actual VR content that the teacher's going to be going through, as well as the content for the teacher, like the lesson plans and stuff like that.
Okay, so I was going to recommend, there's a local company called Rosby, and they do STEM education. I think that's all they focus on. So they probably could give you a lot of insight into, they've got the war wounds from all of that, so they could probably be a good connection.
Yeah, no, that'd be great if we get that information too.
Other questions?
Great presentation. I was actually going to ask, that was alluded to that, basically the hardware itself becomes a bottleneck, when you actually have like a one-player experience. So how, from a technical standpoint, are you even going to get around, the seemingly individualistic experience when it comes to VR? Because right now you generally have one person with an Oculus or one person with whatever rig you're using. How are you going to get around that?
So originally we were going to be targeting the Oculus Go because it's standalone, and the 3 degree of freedom. So 3 degree of freedom means that you can turn around, look up and down and stuff like that, but you can't actually walk around. 6 degree of freedom means you can actually walk around in the space and circle around whatever it is you're looking at. We were originally targeting Oculus Go because it's very cheap. It was $200 at the time. It's now $150. So it's approachable for buying for all the headsets for the students. But also the 3 degrees of freedom means you're less likely to hit the student in front of you as you reach out to do stuff or stand up and walk around the classroom. However, the Oculus Quest that came out last June is $400 and it's completely standalone. It doesn't require any PC or anything like that. So that's what we're targeting now. So it does have the 6 degree of freedom, so they can pick something up, reach out, grab it, pick it up, look at it, move dials and stuff like that. We run into that risk of if they reach out and hit someone, but it's just teaching the teacher classroom arrangements that will work best to keep that from happening. And they also just introduced in December hand tracking, so you don't even need the controllers anymore, so you can go, and that's one of the things that we're really, really going to be gearing up towards, because then you don't even have the controllers. You just provide the headset, the kids stick their hands out, and they can start going and grabbing something and interacting with it. That kind of answer your question?
Yes, actually, one quick follow-up. Would they all be experiencing the same scenario, or would basically it still be individualized tracks such that they're all experiencing the same thing just asynchronously?
No, if you and I were in our headsets, we'd see each other. Not in the same exact physical space.
Sure.
You could be over there or there, up on a ceiling or something like that. But it is a completely shared environment. That's part of it, is making sure that these students have to, even if they're not going to see facial expressions and stuff, you can tell a lot about social cues based on hand movement and gaze and stuff like that. So we're really wanting to bring that in, as well as voice over IP within it, so they can talk to each other and work their problems.
Thank you.
Are you aware of any research that demonstrates that VR contributes to increased attention levels for students? And if so, that can be used to help sell that to school boards and educators.
There is some, I can't remember the titles off the top of my head, but VR. So VR is moving so fast that academia is still trying to catch up. So there are some spots where it's been used. A lab we've attempted to collaborate with, but haven't gotten grants so far, has been using it in a social VR platform similar to ours for students with autism in the elementary school range, and they've seen like significant uptakes in that, because you can take students that have social anxiety and stuff like that and stick them in a VR environment, and because they're dealing with avatars, they don't have those social anxiety issues like they otherwise would. And so they're able to go in and have a shared educational experience and learn a lot more from that. But for generalized learning, we're actually hoping to be able to pair up with colleges and with colleges of education to fully test that out.
Okay, great presentation. This is fascinating stuff. I'm assuming that it's Wi-Fi based?
Yes.
And is all the software like a standardized platform that for developers to use? So if it'll run on any headset you're using at various levels?
So it can. We're targeting the Oculus Quest first. The only real difference in kind of SDK, the underlying software right now, is Oculus has its own version of stuff, and Steam VR, which runs a lot of the other headsets, has its own stuff. The platform we're developing on, Unity, and its most recent thing, has just said, no, just use a standard thing you can do in everything. So that's what we're going to be gunning
Because
for.
particularly if you're looking at schools, creating a library of software and situations that people can use all over, and a teacher can create something and then have it used anywhere.
Yeah.
That's a very cool thing. And if you have some kind of incentive for teachers, if they don't have time, then pay them.
Yep. And that's actually what this phase 3, a few years down the line, because building those sorts of tools will take a lot more time. But that's our overall goal, is later down the line, allowing teachers that like creating their own stuff to be able to get in there, create their own learning modules using our tools, and be able to put them up there on a marketplace that other teachers can download and use as well, and they'll get a percentage of all sales.
So to the content question, because from my knowledge of the video game market, the Jaguar 64, I think of the Nintendo Glove, and where these things like fail is you had executives pushing something to market. So either you have terrible gameplay with the Glove on existing games, and also then poor content developers partnering with it. And then the same thing with the Jaguar, like a very capable system for its time, but you have this contentious relationship between developers and the system owners. So you mentioned no people aren't developing. There's a stop in development for the VR market. Was I correct in hearing that? And what can you tell us more about the content developer situation with these systems?
It's for, that was for phone-based VR. So phone-based VR has kind of died out. The people that were really leading that charge, so Oculus stopped supporting the Gear VR, Google stopped supporting their Daydream platform. Those were the two main ones for phone-based VR. They realized that it just wasn't immersive enough, and the technology was getting to the point where you could get the full 6 degrees of freedom for a lot cheaper than the like $2,500 that it cost before. So that's where that stopped. Development for VR in general, especially for Oculus Quest, which is what we're going for, has just skyrocketed. So there are people waiting in line to be able to put their content up for the Oculus Quest, because it's a very curated platform. And then others are just getting flooded with new VR content all the time for the PC VR market.
Then just a quick question into that. What do you see as the top contenders then? Do you think this is going to be highly fragmented, in which you'll have 100 different players capturing the content market, or very, very concentrated, 3 top players, Activision or whoever, capturing the content market? I
see it being, in the long term, basically the same as it is for the console market right now. So because we've started moving more towards, the headsets are almost more like consoles than they are a PC with games. So right now Oculus has its own console, if you will, with the Oculus Quest, and people are putting money into putting stuff on there. We've just started seeing the AAA publishers starting to put money towards games on there. Valve putting their highest value IP onto VR right now is going to start that flood of people saying, basically, crap, we have to catch up. And the headsets that are out there right now, almost all of them are running 2 weeks to a month out on back order with people trying to get ready for these new releases as they come out. So it's going to be a mix. Once the AAA starts catching up, it's dominated by indies right now, but the indies I think are going to end up getting pushed out like it has been. It's going to be a nice split market.
Did you say you have beta tests with some schools coming up?
Yes, we have pilot tests coming up with 4 schools with about 5 to 6 teachers in April and May. And we're making 2 pieces of software, or two learning modules for that.
So they're all the same age group and same content, or?
So 3 of the schools are going to be middle schools. So specifically 8th grade, we're going to be teaching space systems. So we're going to be doing lunar orbits, or lunar phases, size and distance comparisons between planets. So being able to see how small the Earth actually is in relation to the sun, but then how far away the sun is. And then actually doing things like having the students teleport down to the planets and take samples of like Mars, Phobos, Io, Europa, the moon, soil samples, air samples, checking out the different landmarks, and then going back up onto the like spaceship classroom and working with the teacher to do the comparison between all those numbers, what they mean, how they compare to the Earth. And then the 4th school is a high school biology, and we're going to be doing population ecology. So if anyone ever did the you have what is it, like rabbits and wolves, like rabbits, wolves, grass, that sort of simulation. See, oh, there's too many wolves, so rabbits all died, grass all grew, wolves all died, that sort of thing. But I think almost the best example would be the Star Wars chessboard. So have it be a lab. So 3 or 4 students gather around this, and they're able to work together to try to figure out what will cause an equilibrium in this system. And they pass that around, and they have to go to the next and say, okay, we'll now introduce this new type of species. What do you need to do to kind of combat that and make sure that it goes to an equilibrium? So you can teach stuff like biodiversity, invasive species, what happens when you put people there, and stuff like that.
So are you using in one of the other classrooms a control group, like if they have in the high school, so that you can validate whether or not this is an effective or more effective learning tool?
Yes, most of the schools that we're dealing with, we're going to be, so for example, Boonville Middle School, 2 of the 4 classes that the teacher teaches are going to be using VR, and the other 2 are going to be the control group, and then she's going to be using her same assessment. The biology class in Jeff City High School, she is one of multiple biology teachers that is teaching the same, so her students are all going to get the VR, and then the assessments are going to be compared against the other teachers' classes. And that's kind of how we're going to go. I think Columbia Public School and the Lake Forest Country are going to be doing all their students because Columbia Public School, it's an elective class specifically for astronomy, and Lake Forest Country Day School is a smaller private school. So we're going to have all 40-something of their kids go through over a couple of days.
Wes, you got the last question.
I think it's a great idea. Back when I was in middle school, I think multimedia, the only thing that passed with that was the film strip and like beat, you can go to the next one. So things have moved. I'm just curious where you see sort of your long-term strengths as a company, showing my age. So there's kind of 3 ingredients, right? There's the hardware, there's the software, and then there's the service model for it. The hardware you already don't create, and that's going to be driven by Oculus and others.
Right.
The software, it sounds like you'll be encroached very swiftly by top-tier publishers and developers, maybe not. And so is service really an area where your relationship to the schools and your knowledge of how they work will differentiate you?
Part of it's going to be strategic partnerships. So most states have 1 or more kind of distribution partners for things like hardware in the schools and software in the schools. We're trying to build up a deal with Moornet that services a lot of the schools in Missouri, providing them with things like the learning management systems, their smart boards. They actually have a department that's trying to teach teachers about VR and AR, and working with them to make sure that we're part of that whole loop when the schools start bringing VR into it. The major players on the video game side, I don't think any of them are going to be trying to get into education, so that's a good thing there. On the regular content creation side, there are going to be other small players like us, I think, well, small temporarily, but the bigger ones like Pearson and McGraw-Hill and stuff like that, I feel like they're going to be a little bit less enthusiastic about getting into it because they tried to jump in when VR first started, when the Rift first started, and they got burnt after spending lots of money. So once burnt, twice shy. So we're going to hope that they kind of stay out of it because they don't want to have that same mistake. They've both been drawn into tech.
Start training product.
Right. So, or we'll just keep making a profit and then tell them, well, you can just develop content for us and we'll take a big portion of what you make.
All right, and you kind of answered the question of what can we do for you? I mean, say it again though. You'd like introductions and proselytizing?
Yeah. Introductions to teachers that are interested in VR and tech so that we can find more pilots in the fall. Introductions to parents that are interested in doing beta testing or early adopters for the system as we go through, and then find someone that has VR. I'm sure that there's probably a VR startup in here somewhere or someone that's done VR. Grab their headset, try it out, see what you think. I would suggest using some of the newer headsets than the older just because they've improved a lot over the past 4 years.
All right, thank you very much.